Hello, it's Kath from Spring Spur Kitchen. I'm gonna do an adult story today, and wish you all the best, and share with you a little bit about me, because I am a great storyteller. We've had a lifetime here up in the mountains. I had a major back surgery done in 2013. It sounds like a long time ago, but I did have major surgery, 5 new discs and 30 centimetres of spinal fusion. So it was big. I was a lot bigger too, but I now am on the road to recovery and managing quite well, really. Today I decided to dress up and put a nice little op shop number on that I found, and then my gorgeous friend Anna just dropped off this beautiful little cardigan. I might do a little modelling procession. This is my beautiful flowers that I got from my neighbour George. Hope you're okay, George. Did night shift last night. So this is to tell you a little bit about me, and it'll come through my story. And my story kind of starts at the beginning, really, of me as a young woman before I decided to come here to the high country. I was in Tonnenbach, and then we came up here and our adventures began in the high country. So this story I wrote some time ago, not long ago, but it's called Reflections of a Gippsland Girl, because that's what Steve calls me, his Gippsland girl, which is very sweet. The phone rang. I led the horse to the rail. It had been answered. With the wind in my ears, somehow I instinctively knew it was my mother. I became aware of my own steps. First the dusty yard, then the gate squeaking open. I rubbed my hands on the back of my jeans for a quick clean. Hard-working hands, I remember my mum saying as she clasped mine in hers. We often held hands. I heard the gate slamming behind me. I could take the receiver from the veranda, I thought. I need a break. I justified it was a wall telephone. Maybe I could gulp down a cuppa while I'm at it. Oh, I will now. Boots off, I thought. No, I'll leave them on, I told myself. I stepped onto the back porch of the weatherboard farmhouse, relocated from Wodonga Freeway and resurrected as our home in the heart of the high country in Toowoomba, Victoria, Australia. The horses were patiently waiting. The truck was running, engines going, ready to take them to Falls Creek for the start of the summer holidays and our new career, combining our love of family, our passion for horses and adventure. We settled on a future path. Steve and I met in 1978. We were committed to one another immediately. When the boys were born, our adventures began as a family, creating a life in the mountains. I had to be resilient. One day I grabbed a sledgehammer, much to the delight of the boys, and smashed the back wall out, creating a back porch, opening it up to the north sunshine. Stepping over the obvious cuts in the supporting timber beams, I smiled at the memory of the day the boys discovered Steve's chisels and hammers. Thank goodness for grandparents, I thought. Steve had already left, less than an hour before, on a pack horse trip, our second for the season, newcomers in a new community. Reassured the children were safely with Steve's parents at Phillip Island for their annual holiday, that year, Mum and Dad at Tonnenbach, Lynn and Clay, were going to have their first ever Christmas away from Steve and I, their parents. Pat and Bob picked them up on Boxing Day, happily taking them further on their coastal adventures, fishing and swimming. The floorboards vibrated. It was impossible to walk quietly. My friend mimed, "Your mum," and handed me the phone. "Hello, Mum," I blurted out, breathless from walking fast. I've always walked fast. "Kath," she hesitated. I heard her intake of breath. "Kath, Dad had a fall-off firefly today. He's dead, Kath. He's stone dead." A groan deep within me roared out, a sound so foreign, yet so familiar. A guttural sound born of the womb. This was not a life born, but a life finished. That word, dead, so final. My dad, dead at 64. I hugged the pillow as Steve and I boarded the plane. The attendant recognised my prop, my red eyes and damp pillow muffling my uncontrollable sobs. Steve's hand in mine, comforting me. Although the packhorse trip had left for a week in the mountains, we caught Steve on the road just before the Loch National Park gate. Steve didn't hesitate moving into crisis mode. I was dazed and hollow. I wanted to hug my little boys. I had a window seat. Cumulus clouds, blinding, golden-lined edges, fogged up sunglasses. As we flew south, I wondered if there was a God. I was 30 years old. The first funeral I had witnessed flooded my mind, hypersensitive thoughts jumping around in my head, turbulence shaking me back to my reality. I discovered in these moments that memories are never lost, just filed away, sort of super sensitive in some part of your brain that you'd never imagined was there. Mum's friend Joan Thompson had lost her 15-year-old son. Hi, Joni. He had been one of my primary school classmates. In our first year at school, we were spotted drinking warm leftover milk at the end of the school day. The next morning, we stood at the strange God Save the Queen assembly, standing in the front row, eyes ahead, toes on yellow lines, back straight. Self-consciousness crept up my neck as I heard the crime announced. There was a milk thief amongst us, identified by my blonde hair or Brad's thick dark hair. We were the culprits. My skinny legs slightly bandy, arched back, horse rider's legs, Grandpa would say. Kathleen Viney. I was the thief. Unlocking my frozen knees, I bravely stepped in front of the yellow line. Looking up, I saw Brad step forward too. His name wasn't called. I saw Mrs. Cavendish marching down the red gum stairs, her frightening voice and dyed beehive hairstyle towering above her scalp. Up the stairs I was hauled by my ponytail, tripping my way up, following her, sideways. Brad voluntarily stepping up too, right behind me. There we were, side by side, trouble. A modern 60s teacher dressed in black miniskirt, black stockings. I should have noticed her shoes, but I didn't. I was 4.5 years old. Shame filled my small frame looking down at my shiny black school shoes. It was 1961. I remembered my blisters and band-aids that first year of school. Brad and I, bonded by our milky misdeeds, walked home together occasionally, but we parted ways at Arunta Crescent. Brad went down Crawford Road and I would turn left and walk towards Melaleuca Drive. My dad named all the streets. The Zenos were our neighbours. Similar double blocks, classic 50s houses, modern humbling north-facing homes, one shared bathroom. Mum and Mickey Zeno were friends. She smoked Craven A unfiltered every afternoon in our dining room. North sun streaming in, smoke drifting off the top of her cigarette. She had the longest curved fingernails I'd ever seen, bright red. If one broke, she would mend it with tape and nail polish over it. I bit my nails, so was, terribly envious. They owned a delicatessen in Carnegie. Everything served in paper bags and greaseproof paper. I loved visiting their shop. The exotic cheeses and sausage imported from Europe, Mickey's house amongst the melaleucas. Pigeons cooed eerily as I walked down their long, narrow path. Henry's pigeons became his passion after the internment through the war years. I always heard my heart beat walking down their long pathway at night, beyond the big iron gates. The house was always full of lights and smelt like Henry's cigars. Brad was killed instantly by a drunk driver. I witnessed the grief his mother bore that day. I was a 14-year-old country kid who had the imagination as vast as the Milky Way, a confident kid with vulnerabilities bubbling under the surface of my fair skin. My big blue eyes easily filled with tears, my matted blonde mane thick and untamed just like me. Ponies and ponytails was my world, weekends exploring the Diamond Creek and logging tracks in the dark, damp eucalypt forests of Tonnenbuck, my weekend home. The crowd of mourners cried openly, boys and girls, mothers and fathers. I cried, fear stalking me like a stranger on a dark night. The grievers filed past the open coffin, that strange, unfamiliar, wailing funeral home. Everyone was just sad. Looking up, I saw my own mother's grief, her protective hand holding mine, keeping me from viewing Brad's body. Fear was new, panic as yet a foreign experience. Brad Thompson died walking to the drive-in movies on that fateful night, where he and his mates walked once a fortnight, sneaking in the back way under the barbed wire, past the horses registered there. Lovable larrikins walking the dirt roads of Clorinda to watch for free, movies with no sound. Brad sometimes narrating for the film, his mates rolling around laughing in the grass. Beautiful young men, one lost, the other young lives changed forever. So was mine. To be continued, this one.